Ben worked through the night. He stitched wounds he did not fully understand. He cleaned cuts that went deeper than any he had seen on farm animals. He used every bandage, every medicine, every bit of knowledge he had gained from 20 years of caring for livestock. It was not enough. He knew it was not enough, but it was all he had. Calvin watched him the entire time. The green dragon could not move much, but his golden eyes followed every motion Ben made. There was suspicion in those eyes, and confusion, and something else that Ben could not name. "You have been working for hours," Calvin said, as the first light of dawn crept through the barn windows. "You have not rested. You have not eaten. Why do you push yourself so hard for strangers?" Ben finished wrapping a bandage around Thyrus's torn wing. The blue dragon was still unconscious, but her breathing had grown steadier. That was a good sign. "When my wife was sick," Ben said quietly, "I stayed by her side for 3 days without sleep. I would have stayed longer if I could. When someone needs you, you do not stop because you are tired." Calvin was silent for a moment. Then he said, "Your wife. She is gone now?" 3 years ago. The sickness took her." Ben sat back on his heels and wiped the sweat from his forehead. "Mary was the best person I ever knew. She believed that helping others was the most important thing a person could do. She would have done the same thing I am doing now. Probably better. Among my people," Calvin said slowly, "we do not help without expecting something in return. Every favor creates a debt. Every kindness has a price. It is how our society works." Ben shrugged. "Sounds exhausting." Calvin made a sound that might have been a laugh. Or maybe a cough. It was hard to tell. The morning passed quietly. Ben made a simple soup and tried to get Calvin to eat. The dragon refused at first, but hunger eventually won. Ben also managed to drip some water into Thyrus's mouth. She swallowed without waking. That was another good sign. Around midday, Calvin lifted his head suddenly. His eyes went sharp. His nostrils flared. "Someone is coming," he said. "I can smell them. They are not human." Ben felt his stomach drop. He moved to the barn door and looked out carefully. 3 figures were walking across his field, coming from the direction of the forest. They were tall and thin, with gray skin and long arms. Their eyes were black and empty. They carried weapons that looked like nothing Ben had ever seen. "The Vrethek," Calvin hissed. "The ones who attacked us. They are searching for survivors. Can you fight?" Ben asked. "No, I can barely stand." "And Thyrus cannot move at all." Ben nodded. He had expected that answer. He looked around the barn and found some old tarps and extra hay. Working quickly, he covered both dragons, hiding them beneath layers of cloth and dried grass. "Stay quiet," he said. "Do not move. Do not make a sound. I will handle this." "You cannot fight them," Calvin said from under the tarp. "They will kill you." "I am not going to fight them. I am going to lie to them." Ben walked out of the barn and closed the door behind him. He picked up a rake that was leaning against the wall and pretended to work. His heart was beating so hard, he thought it might burst out of his chest. But he kept his face calm. He had played cards with cheaters before. He knew how to hide what he was feeling. The 3 Vrethek stopped a few meters away from him. The one in front tilted its head and studied Ben with those empty black eyes. "Human," it said. Its voice was cold and flat. "We are searching for 2 Draconith. They fell from the sky during the storm. Have you seen them?" Ben leaned on his rake and scratched his chin. "Draconith? You mean those big lizard things with wings?" "Cannot say I have. Storm was pretty bad last night. I stayed inside with my head under the covers." The Vrethek did not react to his attempt at humor. "We tracked them to this area. They could not have gone far. Their injuries were severe. Well, you are welcome to look around if you want, but all you will find here is wheat and old farming equipment. Not very exciting, I am afraid. The Vrethik exchanged glances. One of them pointed toward the barn. What is in there? Ben felt a spike of fear, but did not let it show. Just my animals. Couple of cows. Some chickens. A horse that is too old to ride, but too stubborn to die. You want to see? He started walking toward the barn, hoping they would not follow. But they did. All three of them. Ben opened the barn door and stepped inside. The tarps covering the dragons were in the far corner, hidden in shadows. The cows looked up with lazy curiosity. The chickens clucked and scattered. The old horse just stood there, chewing on hay. The lead Vretad scanned the barn with its black eyes. Ben held his breath. 1 second. 2 seconds. 5 seconds. There's nothing here, the Vrethik said finally. We will continue our search elsewhere. Ben nodded and walked them back outside. He watched them cross his field and disappear into the forest. Only when they were completely gone did he let himself breathe again. He went back into the barn and pulled the tarps off the dragons. Calvin stared at him with wide eyes. You lied to them, the dragon said. You risked your life to protect us. If they had found us, they would have killed you too. Probably, Ben agreed. But they did not find you. So everything worked out. Why? I still do not understand. We are nothing to you. Our kind has never shown yours any respect. Why would you protect us? Ben sat down on a hay bale and rubbed his tired eyes. He thought about Mary again. He thought about all the times she had helped neighbors who had not been kind to her. He thought about her smile and her gentle voice, and the way she always saw the best in everyone. Because, he said, it is the right thing to do. And because my wife taught me that being kind is not about what you get back. It is about who you choose to be. Calvin was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than before. Your wife sounds like she was a remarkable person. She was, Ben said. She really was. A small sound came from the corner. Both Ben and Calvin turned to look. Thyres was moving. Her eyes fluttered open, blue and bright. She looked around in confusion, then saw her brother. Calvin, she whispered. Where? Where are we? Safe, Calvin said. For now. A human saved us. Thyres turned her head and saw Ben. She blinked several times, as if she could not believe what she was seeing. Then her eyes closed again and her body shook. She has a fever, Ben said, moving quickly to her side. He touched her scales and felt the heat burning beneath them. The wounds are infected. She needs medicine. Real medicine. Calvin's face fell. There is a Draconith outpost 3 days from here. They have healers. Proper medicine. But I cannot fly. And theories cannot move. Ben looked at the wagon sitting in the corner of the barn. It was old and worn, built for carrying wheat to market. It was not meant for dragons, but it would have to do. Then we walk, Ben said simply. We leave at first light. Daniel Carter had been working security for 3 years on Nexus 7, and nothing exciting ever happened. The neutral space station floated between star systems like a giant metal island where different species came to talk instead of fight. Humans had only joined the galactic community 15 years ago, and most aliens still looked at them like they were children learning to walk. Daniel did not mind. He was a former Marine who wanted quiet after 2 wars on Earth. Checking badges and watching cameras suited him fine. The pay was good, the food was decent, and nobody shot at him anymore. That changed on a Tuesday. The alarm started screaming at 1400 hours. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Daniel grabbed his sidearm and checked his communication device. The message made his blood run cold. Assassination attempt in the Valorian section. All personnel evacuate through secondary routes. This is not a drill. The Valorians were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They ruled 40 star systems and had technology that made human ships look like toys. Their queen was visiting the station for diplomatic talks, and she had brought her family. If someone was trying to kill Valorian royalty, the whole station could become a war zone. Daniel started moving his people toward the maintenance corridors. These narrow passages ran behind the walls and connected different sections of the station. They were ugly and cramped, but they were safe. He was helping the lost group through a service door when he heard footsteps. Not the heavy boots of station security, something lighter, something running. Daniel raised his weapon and turned the corner. A girl stood in the corridor. She was Valorian, with pale blue skin and silver hair that fell past her shoulders. Her eyes were wide with fear, and her fine robes were torn at the sleeve. She could not have been older than 16 in human years, though with Valorians, age was hard to guess. Daniel recognized her from the security briefings. Princess Narration, youngest daughter of Queen Thesara. "Please," she whispered. "They killed my guards. They are coming." Daniel heard them before he saw them. 3 figures emerged from the shadows at the far end of the corridor. They were Cathari, a reptilian species known for assassination work. Their scales were dark green, and each one carried a curved blade that dripped with something wet. Poison. The Cathari always used poison. "Get behind me," Daniel said. The princess did not argue. She pressed herself against the wall as Daniel stepped forward. The lead assassin made a sound like laughter. A human? The princess hides behind a human? He spoke to his companions in their own language, and they all made the same ugly sound. "Step aside, little mammal. This does not concern your primitive species." Daniel did not step aside. The first assassin moved fast. Cathari were quick, much quicker than humans. But Daniel had fought in 2 wars. He had learned that speed meant nothing if you could predict where your enemy would be. The blade came for his throat. Daniel ducked under it and fired twice into the assassin's chest. The Cathari dropped. The second assassin screamed and rushed forward. Daniel sidestepped the charge and grabbed the creature's arm. He twisted hard, heard something crack, and then put 3 rounds through the assassin's skull. The third one was smarter. He did not charge. He circled, looking for an opening, his poison blade weaving patterns in the air. "You are fast for a human," the assassin admitted. "But you cannot protect her forever. More will come. The contract has been paid. Then they will die too," Daniel said. The assassin lunged. Daniel blocked the blade with his forearm, feeling the metal bite through his sleeve and into his flesh. The pain was immediate and burning, but he did not let go. He pulled the assassin close and pressed his gun against the creature's stomach. "Drop it," Daniel said. "You are going to tell me who hired you." The assassin dropped his blade. His yellow eyes were wide with something Daniel had seen before. Fear. The same fear that every enemy showed when they realized humans did not fight like other species. Humans did not stop when they were hurt. Humans got angry. Daniel secured the prisoner with zip ties from his belt. His arm was burning now, the poison spreading through his veins like liquid fire. His vision was starting to blur at the edges. "We need to move," he told the princess. "Can you walk?" She nodded, still staring at the 2 dead assassins on the floor. "You killed them." They said humans were weak. All the reports said humans were weak. Reports are wrong sometimes. Daniel grabbed the prisoner with his good hand and started walking. Every step sent pain shooting through his body. The poison was working fast. "Stay close. Stay quiet." They moved through the maintenance corridors for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Daniel could feel his heartbeat slowing, his thoughts becoming foggy. The princess walked beside him, her small hand gripping his sleeve like he was the only safe thing in the universe. "Why did you help me?" she asked quietly. "You could have run. You had no reason to fight for me." Daniel thought about the question. It was a good question. He was just a security guard. The Valorians were not his people. Their politics were not his problem. But he had seen a scared girl alone in a corridor, and something inside him had made the choice before his brain caught up. "Because you needed help," he said. "That is reason enough." They reached a security checkpoint just as Daniel's legs gave out. He fell to his knees, still holding the prisoner, still placing himself between the princess and any possible threat. Valorian guards rushed toward them, their weapons drawn, their faces showing shock at what they saw. A human, covered in blood, kneeling before their princess with a captured assassin at his feet. Princess Narration did not run to her people. She knelt beside Daniel and took his hand. "Help him," she commanded, her voice suddenly strong. "He saved my life. Help him now." Daniel looked up at her face, saw the fear turning into something else. Determination. Loyalty. He had seen that look before, in soldiers who had fought beside him. "You are going to be okay," she told him. "I will not let you die." Daniel wanted to tell her that it was not her choice, that the poison was already shutting down his organs, that humans were tough, but not tough enough to survive Kethari venom. Instead, the darkness took him, and the last thing he felt was her hand holding his. Daniel woke up in a room made of light. The walls glowed soft blue, and strange symbols floated in the air above his bed. Medical symbols, he realized. He was in a hospital, but not a human one. His arm hurt. His whole body hurt. But he was alive, and that surprised him more than anything. "You should be dead." The voice came from his left. Daniel turned his head and saw a Valorian woman standing by the window. She was tall and elegant, with the same blue skin and silver hair as the princess. But where the girl had been young and frightened, this woman was something else entirely. Power radiated from her like heat from a fire. Queen. The Zara of the Valorian Dominion looked at Daniel like he was a puzzle she could not solve. "The poison in your blood should have killed you in minutes," she continued. "It kills every species we know of. But your body fought it. Your primitive human immune system treated it like an infection and burned it out." She paused. "Our doctors have never seen anything like it." Daniel tried to sit up. Pain shot through his chest, and he fell back against the bed. "Where am I?" "My flagship. The Eternal Throne." The queen walked closer, her robes flowing behind her like water. "You are far from your station, human. Far from your people." "The princess. Is she safe?" Something flickered in the queen's eyes. "She is safe. Because of you." She stopped at the edge of his bed, looking down at him with an expression Daniel could not read. "My daughter has not left your side since you arrived. She sleeps in the chair by your door. She refused food until my doctors promised you would live." Daniel did not know what to say. He had done his job. He had protected someone who needed protection. It was not complicated. "Why did you do it?" the queen asked. "You had no obligation to my daughter. You are not part of my court. You are not even part of our alliance. You are human, a species we barely acknowledge. Why risk your life?" "She was scared and alone," Daniel said. "I could help. So I helped." The queen stared at him for a long moment. Then she laughed. It was not a warm sound. "You humans are strange creatures. Our scholars study you, you know? They say you are irrational. You form bonds with anything. You adopt animals as family. You die for strangers. They call it a weakness." "Maybe it is," Daniel admitted. "But it is who we are." The queen nodded slowly. "The assassin you captured has talked. He was hired by someone within my own court. Someone close to my family. The conspiracy runs deep, and I did not know who I can trust." She paused, her eyes meeting his. "Except, perhaps, a human with no political ties. No reason to lie. No ambition beyond doing what is right." Daniel felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Your Majesty, I appreciate your gratitude, but I have duties. I need to return to my post. To Earth's embassy." No, the word was simple and final. "You saved royal blood," the Queen said. "By our ancient laws, a blood debt has been created. Until that debt is repaid, you are bound to my throne. You will remain as my daughter's personal guardian until the conspiracy is uncovered and destroyed." Daniel pushed himself up despite the pain. "With respect, Your Majesty, you cannot just take me. I am a citizen of Earth. I have rights." "You have the rights I give you." The Queen's voice was ice. "Your ambassador has already been informed. She protests, of course. She threatens diplomatic consequences. But we both know Earth cannot challenge the Valorian dominion. Not yet. Perhaps not ever." She turned toward the door. "You will be treated with honor. You will want for nothing. But you will not leave until I allow it. And if I refuse?" The Queen stopped but did not turn around. "My daughter believes you are a hero. She speaks of nothing else. She says you held her hand while poison burned through your blood. She says you placed yourself between her and death without hesitation." Now she turned, and Daniel saw something in her eyes that surprised him. Not cruelty, desperation. "Someone in my court wants my daughter dead. I cannot trust my guards. I cannot trust my advisors. I cannot even trust my own son, because I do not know how deep this conspiracy runs. But I can trust you, human, because you have already proven what you are willing to sacrifice." Daniel wanted to argue. He wanted to demand his freedom. But he thought of the princess, the frightened girl in the corridor, and the way she had held his hand while he was dying. "How long?" he asked quietly. "Until it is done. Until my daughter is safe." The Queen walked to the door. "Rest now. Recover. You will need your strength." She paused one final time. "And human? Do not try to escape. My guards have orders to stop you. They will not be gentle." She left. Daniel lay back against the bed and stared at the glowing ceiling. The door opened again, and this time the princess slipped through. Her eyes were red like she had been crying, but her face lit up when she saw him awake. "You are alive," she breathed. "They said you would live, but I did not believe them. No one survives Kethari poison. No one. Humans are stubborn," Daniel said. Narration laughed. It was a young sound, full of relief. She pulled a chair close to his bed and sat down, tucking her legs beneath her like a child. "My mother says you must stay. She says the blood debt binds you. I know. Are you angry?" Daniel thought about it. He should be angry. He had been kidnapped, essentially, forced into service against his will. But when he looked at the princess, he did not feel anger. He felt something else. Something protective. Something familiar. "I will stay until you are safe," he said. "But then I go home. Your mother will have to accept that." The princess smiled. "You are very brave. Or very foolish. The Valorians who serve my mother would never speak to her the way you do. Maybe that is your problem." Daniel shifted in the bed, trying to find a comfortable position. "Maybe you need someone who is not afraid to tell the truth." Narration was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out and took his hand, just like she had in the corridor. "Thank you, Daniel Carter, for saving me, for staying." She squeezed his fingers gently. "I will make sure my mother keeps her word. When this is over, you will go home. I promise." Daniel looked at her young face, her sincere eyes, and he believed her. In a court full of lies and conspiracy, This girl was telling him the truth. "Then we better find out who wants you dead," he said. "And we better do it fast." The princess nodded, her expression hardening with determination. "Yes, we will find them together. And when we do, they will learn what happens when you threaten the people I care about." Daniel almost smiled. She sounded like her mother, cold and fierce and dangerous. Maybe that was exactly what they needed. The Hall of Ancestors was the largest room Daniel had ever seen. Crystal pillars rose toward a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadow. Thousands of Valorians filled the galleries, their faces cold and hostile as they watched the human in chains being led to the center of the floor. Daniel kept his head high. He would not give them the satisfaction of seeing him broken. Queen Thesara sat on a throne of white crystal, her face an unreadable mask. To her left stood Prince Kelver, the princess's older brother, a warrior with silver hair and eyes full of contempt. To her right stood High Priestess Valora, her expression calm and satisfied like a predator watching trapped prey. And beside the throne, in a smaller chair, sat Princess Narration. Her eyes met Daniel's across the hall, and he saw the fear in them. Fear for him. "Daniel Carter of Earth," the Queen's voice echoed through the hall. "You stand accused of conspiracy to assassinate Princess Narration. Evidence has been presented showing communications with known Keth-Ari assassins, maps of the palace with marked routes, and payment transfers to accounts linked to the original attack. How do you answer these charges?" "Not guilty," Daniel said clearly. "The evidence was planted. I am being framed." A murmur ran through the crowd. Valora stepped forward, her robes flowing like dark water. "The human lies, as his species always does," she said. "He gained our trust through false heroism, then used his position to plan further attacks. The evidence is clear and undeniable." "The evidence is fake," Daniel replied. "Someone in this court wants the princess dead, and they are using me to hide their crimes. Do you have proof of this claim?" The Queen asked. Daniel hesitated. His evidence against Valora was gone, confiscated when they arrested him. Without it, he had nothing but his word against the most respected priestess in the Dominion. "I have no physical proof," he admitted. "But I have the truth. The truth is not enough." Valora's smile was thin and sharp. "The law demands evidence. Without it, you will be judged guilty and executed." Daniel felt the weight of the blade hidden in his boot. The princess had given him a weapon, but what good was one small knife against an empire? He could not fight his way out of this, but maybe he could fight his way through it. "Under Valorian law," Daniel said slowly, "an accused who maintains their innocence may demand trial by combat. Is this not true?" The hall went silent. Queen Thesara's eyes narrowed slightly. "You know our laws," she said. "Yes, trial by combat is your right. But consider carefully, human. The throne will choose a champion to face you, a Valorian warrior with centuries of training. You would be fighting for your life against someone who has killed more enemies than you have years. I understand. And you still demand combat?" Daniel looked at Valora, saw the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. She had not expected this. She had thought he would confess or beg for mercy. She had underestimated him. "I demand trial by combat," Daniel said. "Let the ancestors judge my innocence." The crowd erupted in noise. Some were shouting in anger, some in excitement. A human fighting a Valorian champion was entertainment they had never expected. The Queen raised her hand, and silence fell. "Very well. The throne accepts your demand." She turned to look at the warriors standing at attention along the walls. "Who will champion the court against the accused?" "I will." Prince Kelver stepped forward, his hand resting on the sword at his hip. His face was stone, but his eyes burned with something Daniel recognized. Jealousy. Hatred. "The human has brought shame to our house," the prince said. He abused my mother's trust and threatened my sister. Let me end this quickly." The queen looked at her son for a long moment. Something passed between them, a silent communication that Daniel could not read. Then she nodded. "Prince Calver will champion the court. The combat will take place tomorrow at dawn in the Arena of Judgment." She stood from her throne. "Take the human back to his cell. Give him food and water. He will need his strength." The guards grabbed Daniel's arms and began pulling him toward the door. As he passed the royal seats, Valora leaned close enough to whisper. "You should have confessed," she said. "Death in combat will be much slower than execution. And I will make sure the princess watches every moment." Daniel said nothing. He let the guards drag him away, his mind already racing through strategies and possibilities. That night, 2 visitors came to his cell. The first was Princess Narration. She came alone, slipping past the guards with the ease of someone who knew every secret passage in the palace. "My brother is the finest warrior in the Dominion," she said, her voice trembling. "He has never lost a duel. Never. There is a first time for everything. This is not funny, Daniel." Tears ran down her blue cheeks. "He will kill you, and I cannot stop it. I tried to speak to my mother, but she says the law must be followed. She says the ancestors will decide the truth." Daniel reached through the bars and took her hand. "Listen to me. Your brother has been trained to fight Valorians. He knows how your species moves, how they think, how they react. But he has never fought a human. He does not know what we are capable of." "What are you capable of?" Daniel smiled grimly. "We do not stop. We do not surrender. We fight until our hearts stop beating, and sometimes we keep fighting after that." He squeezed her fingers. "I am not going to die tomorrow. I am going to expose the truth. And then I am going to keep my promise to protect you." The princess left just before midnight, her hope fragile but real. The second visitor came an hour later. Queen Nasara stood outside his cell in simple robes, without guards or ceremony. "You know the truth," Daniel said. It was not a question. "I suspect the truth," the queen replied quietly. "Valora has served my family for 200 years. But lately, her hatred of other species has grown beyond reason. And she was the only one who knew my daughter's route on the day of the first attack. Then why not arrest her? Because I have no proof. And without proof, my people would see me as a tyrant. A queen who destroys her own servants on the word of a human." The Tsar's voice was bitter. "I need evidence. I need confession. I need something that cannot be denied. And if I die tomorrow?" The queen was silent for a long moment. "Then an innocent man will have died for my daughter, and I will spend the rest of my reign hunting the real traitor." She turned to leave, then stopped. "My son is not evil, human. He has been manipulated." Valora whispered poison in his ear, turn his jealousy into hatred. "If you can show him the truth without killing him, I would consider it a great service. You are asking me to spare the man who wants me dead. I am asking you to be better than us." The queen looked back at him. And for the first time, Daniel saw something like respect in her eyes. "I am asking you to be human." She left without another word. Daniel sat alone in the darkness, thinking about what she had asked. Mercy for the prince who wanted to kill him. Justice without violence. It was a difficult request. Maybe an impossible one, but that was what made humans different. They did impossible things. They believed in mercy and hope even when logic said they should surrender. Daniel lay down on the cold floor and closed his eyes. Tomorrow he would fight for his life. Tomorrow he would face a warrior who had centuries of experience and every advantage. Tomorrow he would show the galaxy what humans were made of. The arena of judgment was ancient. Crystal walls rose toward the pale morning sky, and stone seats circled the fighting floor in endless rows. Every seat was filled. Every eye was fixed on the human standing alone in the center. Daniel wore simple training clothes. They had offered him armor, but he refused. Armor would slow him down, and speed was all he had. Prince Kelver entered from the opposite side. He wore ceremonial battle dress, silver and blue, with a sword at his hip that had killed more enemies than Daniel wanted to count. The prince moved like water, smooth and confident and deadly. "You should have confessed," Kelver said as they faced each other. "I would have made your death quick. You believe I am guilty? I believe you are human. That is enough." The prince drew his sword, the blade singing as it left the sheath. "Your species does not belong among the stars. You are violent and primitive and reckless. You will destroy everything you touch." Daniel drew the blade the princess had given him. It was small compared to the prince's weapon, barely longer than his forearm. The crowd made sounds of amusement. A knife against a sword. It was almost unfair. The queen's voice rang out from the royal platform. "The trial by combat begins. Fight until yield or death. May the ancestors judge the truth." Kelver attacked immediately. He was fast. Faster than anything Daniel had ever faced. The sword came from angles that seemed impossible, each strike designed to end the fight in a single blow. Daniel blocked when he could and dodged when he could not. The prince's blade leaving shallow cuts across his arms and chest. The crowd cheered. They were watching a human die slowly, and they loved it. But Daniel was watching too. He was watching how the prince moved, how he balanced, how he recovered after each attack. Kelver was a master, but masters had patterns. They developed habits after centuries of training, and habits could be exploited. The prince lunged forward, his blade aimed at Daniel's heart. Instead of dodging sideways, Daniel stepped forward, inside the arc of the swing. His knife slashed across Kelver's arm, drawing first blood. The crowd went silent. Kelver looked at his arm in disbelief. "You cut me. No one has cut me in 100 years. Then, you have been fighting the wrong people." The prince's face twisted with rage. He attacked again, faster and harder than before. Daniel took cuts to his shoulder, his leg, his face. Blood ran into his eyes, but he did not stop moving. He could not stop. The moment he stopped was the moment he died. "Why do you not fall?" Kelver demanded, his breathing heavy now. Any other species would be unconscious from blood loss. "Why do you keep fighting?" Daniel spat blood onto the sand. "Because that is what humans do. We keep fighting. We keep getting up. We do not surrender just because we are losing." He saw his opening. The prince's rage had made him sloppy, his swings wider than they needed to be. Daniel waited for the next attack, then ducked under the blade and drove his shoulder into Kelver's chest. The prince stumbled backward. Daniel followed, his knife finding the gaps in the ceremonial armor. A cut here, a stab there. Nothing fatal, nothing permanent. Just enough to slow the prince down. "Yield," Daniel said. "I do not want to kill you. I will never yield to a human." Kelver swung wildly. Daniel grabbed his sword arm and twisted, just as he had learned in training with Commander Volran. The prince's weapon fell to the sand. Before Kelver could recover, Daniel swept his legs and put him on the ground. Knife pressed against his throat. The arena was completely silent. A human had defeated a Valorian prince. A primitive had beaten a master. "I said yield," Daniel repeated. "I said I do not want to kill you. But I will if I have to. Then do it." Kelver's voice was bitter. "Kill me and claim your victory." "No." Daniel leaned closer, speaking only for the prince to hear. "I did not betray your sister. I would never betray her. But someone in your court wants her dead, and they used both of us to hide the truth." He pulled something from his boot, a small data chip he had hidden before his arrest. "This contains evidence. Real evidence. Coded messages between Valora and the Cathari. Payment records. Meeting locations. She has been planning this for years. Calver's eyes widened. That is impossible. Valora has served our family for 200 years. I know, but hate changes people. She hates humans. She hates anyone who is not Valorian. And she decided your sister was too friendly with other species. Too willing to accept primitives like me. Daniel pressed the chip into the prince's hand. Look at the evidence yourself. Then decide who the real traitor is. He stepped back and lowered his knife. The crowd erupted in confusion. The human had won, but he had not killed his opponent. He had not even claimed victory. He was just standing there, covered in blood, waiting. Queen Desara stood from her throne. Daniel Carter, you have defeated the court's champion. The law declares you innocent. But why do you not demand recognition? Because innocence is not enough, Daniel said loudly enough for the whole arena to hear. I do not want to be declared not guilty. I want the real traitor exposed. And I believe Prince Calver can help with that. All eyes turned to the prince, still lying on the sand with the data chip in his hand. Calver stood slowly. He looked at the chip, then at Daniel, then at the royal platform where Valora was trying very hard to keep her face calm. Mother, the prince said, his voice strange. I think we need to examine this evidence. Now, what happened next took only minutes but changed everything. The data chip contained exactly what Daniel had said. Messages, payments, meeting records. Proof that High Priestess Valora had hired the Cathari assassins. Proof that she had framed Daniel. Proof that she had manipulated the prince into championing her cause. Valora tried to run. She made it 3 steps before Calver caught her. You used me, the prince said, his voice shaking with anger. You poisoned my mind against an innocent man. You tried to have my sister killed. She was corrupting our bloodline. Valora screamed, defriending humans and primitives. In another generation, she would have brought them into our court. She would have destroyed everything we built. She is my sister. Calver's sword was at Valora's throat now. And you will spend the rest of your life answering for what you have done. Guards took Valora away. The crowd sat in stunned silence as they watched their ancient priestess dragged from the arena. Like a common criminal, Daniel swayed on his feet. The blood loss was finally catching up with him. The world was getting fuzzy at the edges. Princess Narration reached him first. She threw her arms around him, not caring about the blood or the dirt or the thousands of eyes watching. You did it, she whispered. You kept your promise. I told you I would. Queen Mizara approached more slowly, her face unreadable. She looked at Daniel for a long moment, then nodded once. Your blood debt is repaid, she said formally. You are free to return to Earth whenever you wish. She paused. But if you choose to stay, there would be a place for you. The first human ever granted Valorian citizenship. A noble of the Dominion. Daniel looked at the princess still holding on to him. He looked at Prince Calver, who was watching with something like respect in his eyes. He looked at the crystal arena and the alien sky and the world that had tried to destroy him. I need to contact Earth, he said. Request extended leave. The queen almost smiled. I thought you might. A month later, Daniel stood on a balcony overlooking the crystal city. His wounds had healed, leaving scars that Valorian medicine could have removed, but he chose to keep. They reminded him of what he had survived. Princess Narration joined him, her silver hair catching the light of the twin suns. My mother is planning a celebration, she said, to honor the human who saved the throne. I did not save the throne. I just refused to die. That is the same thing sometimes. She leaned against the railing beside him. Will you stay? Truly stay? Daniel thought about Earth, his apartment, his old life. All of it felt very far away now. For a while, he said, "Someone has to watch your back. You attract trouble." The princess laughed. "I learned from you." Queen Desara appeared in the doorway behind them. She walked to Daniel's side and placed a hand on his shoulder. "You came to us as a primitive," she said quietly. "An outsider. A creature we barely acknowledged. But you leave my daughter's side as something else entirely." Daniel looked at her, at the princess, at the impossible world he'd become part of. "Just human, Your Majesty," he said. "That is all we have ever needed to be." The queen smiled, something rare and genuine. "Perhaps that is exactly what this galaxy needs." They stood together on the balcony, watching the sun set over the crystal towers. A human, a princess, and a queen. Family in the ways that mattered most. And somewhere in the stars, the rest of the galaxy was learning a new lesson about the species from Earth. They were stubborn. They were reckless. They did not know when to quit, and that made them the most dangerous creatures in the universe.